Welcome back to PlayStation Corner. My name is Alex and today we're taking a look at the Riftbreaker on the PlayStation 5. Now a big thanks to Exor Studios for sponsoring this video today. They asked me to take a look and give you all a breakdown of what it's all about. This though, it was an easy one to say yes to as well because I already owned the game and it's one I'd been personally looking forward to for some time. It definitely did not disappoint. So with that luck, hit subscribe, join our growing PlayStation family, and let's get started. So first off, full transparency, I played it originally on the Xbox, so it was refreshing to dive back in again with a fresh start. But I do want to add here, don't just take my word for how good this one is. Check out the free demo available on the PlayStation Store. That is the easy way to decide if you want to part with that cash, and I love to see demos as many of you already know. So story-wise then, you take on the role of Ashley S. Nowak. You are the title Riftbreaker, one part kind of scientist, one part badass in a mech suit. The idea, you've arrived on an alien planet inside Mr. Riggs, your pet name for your mech. Your job, build up a base that's capable of establishing travel back to Earth, so it's kind of like for future colonization. This planet then, it's known as Galatea 37, which doesn't exactly roll off the tongue, let's face it, and it's deep into the far reaches of the Milky Way. Can you establish control of these locations inside Mr. Riggs? That is the question, and trust me, it's gonna throw everything it has at you. So gameplay, and we have a really unique combination of elements here. We get base building, exploration, a whole lot of research, but then also defense. Now defense comes in a couple of forms, but think structures like turrets, and then also a control scheme with Mr. Riggs. It's essentially a twin stick shooter. I've always looked at this game and it's kind of what attracted me as well to buy it initially, but almost a seriously advanced tower defense experience. The gameplay you'll be seeing today though, you'll be looking at the opening couple of hours. Now my first go around on the Xbox, took it easy, played it safe. This time with this PS5 edition, wanted to kind of push things, and yeah, that did not go well and I got overwhelmed with enemies. The Riftbreaker though, it has a solid tutorial to kick things off, breaking down the basics of the gameplay and how it all works. Now if you're thinking the shooting sounds good, but it's not really my thing strategy, do not worry, it's not overly complicated. It's for sure going to be welcoming to beginners in that sense. Even then as well, if you're more into strategy but not shooting, I'd say it gets a really nice balance between the two. Breaking down the big three though, the base building, it's relatively simple. It takes you through each structure and their importance in the grand scheme of things. You'll start with things like defense measures, a power grid, a mining facility to dig up the local essential resources. That's going to be used for the construction, and then you need to of course like power it all up via that power grid. My suggestion, work on the mine ASAP. You can do it manually, but it's best to have that consistent flow of resources. From here then you'll be building out things like a HQ, and you'll start to evolve these elements as well, so that power source gets more stable. There's going to be solar turbine, you'll be able to research more, and so on. The construction then works on a timeline system, but it's relatively quick in how long it takes. I'd say maybe 20 to 30 seconds per each building, and there's plenty in the meantime to keep you occupied. Even power, it goes for this like daisy chain system, meaning yes, there's going to be depth here, you need to remember to connect things, but it's not trying to confuse you with its design. It also works great on a controller, keeping the menu simple. You know, that's always a concern, strategy on a console, but that like navigation, it's associated to the triggers, and yeah, as you progress things will escalate and evolve thanks to what is that in-depth research menu. It's going to offer a ton of paths you can take. You know, maybe you'll be looking at focusing on how much power you have, maybe you look at your defenses. That choice can only be made by you. Before you know it though, you'll be building the all-essential rift portals for that extra dose of traversal. The Riftbreaker has a great structure to its pacing, never feeling like you're stuck on one thing for too long. You know, 1 minute you're gathering resources, establishing power grids, but it never lets you get too comfortable, and before you know it, and this is going to be frequent, you're under attack or your bases, and it's time to go on the defensive with those twin stick controls. Occasionally as well, you'll probably walk into uncharted territory like me, like an idiot, and yeah, I've got to say here, death is imminent. The gunplay though is solid. With a quick tap of the button you switch from that grid system designed for building to combat mode, otherwise known as twin stick shooting, and you have multiple weapons here at your disposal. You'll start with a sword, a machine gun and a laser beam, but within a few quick steps you can throw a whole slew of other weapons into the mix. It's fast paced though, it's simple, but there's things like a dash mechanic that's available from the beginning, things like health packs as well, just to kind of monitor your life signal. This then is simply the beginning as well. You can add things like upgrades, skills and even consumables, and yeah, maybe you'll even want to adjust your appearance. My suggestion here though, now I've tried both ways in combat, stick close to that base of yours and build a whole lot of defensive turrets. They will absolutely become your best friend. This one just escalates constantly. If for a moment you feel safe in your walls and with your turrets, a new enemy comes along and quickly reminds you the Riftbreaker is boss and you should never relax. That's harder than it sounds as well, because it's such a beautiful and unique world to explore and you can't help but kind of venture just a little bit outside your, I guess your safe zone. And when you do that, you're gonna just see the amount of like enemies and fauna on offer, and these things are absolutely intimidating. It's also then just a ton of fun as well. They've crafted a system that's deep but simple to learn and pick up and play, and the combat, tons of enemies on screen at once, ready to crush you. It's kind of like something out of Starship Troopers for anyone who's seen that movie. When they come towards you, it is like an absolute wave. Outside of the extensive story mode campaign then charging you with building up potential spots to colonize, you can expect a survival mode as well. This challenges you with increasingly difficult waves and it's an absolute blast. It's really a race against the clock, survive as long as you can, and each run then is randomized, allowing for constant runs, which is always appreciated. Graphically then it's beautiful. I think it's one of the better looking games on the PS5, and while it's not a detailed, third person run and gun style of experience, it's really the number of enemies on screen at once that really impresses. They come in, like I said, literal waves, and then the fauna, you can hack and slash your way through it, chop down trees. There's something incredibly satisfying about it all as you kind of clear the land and shape this world. It's also incredibly vivid with its colour palette, which is always a factor I appreciate, and it has some particularly impressive combat effects and explosions to back it all up. Audio finally, and it's got that of course sci-fi orchestral style that you'd expect from the name and setting, with a dash of electronic as well, just for kind of that think alien. Calm during building though, but in battle it will dial up the tension. I appreciate the extra step they went to though to fully voice act things out as well. Remember, this is kind of a budget release, this is not AAA, so that's a big step. It's got a surprisingly good sense of humour as well in its communication as you work to establish these locations. Our doctor can be pretty arrogant at times, but she's always quickly reminded that's probably gonna be a bad idea. So that's kind of an intro to Riftbreaker, and I strongly recommend it. Yes, today's video is sponsored, but I owned it prior to ever agreeing to this video, and I am happy to support this one. It just has so many elements to it all in its gameplay, and it delivers in so many of them, with solid base building, interesting locations to explore, and then the gunplay. I'm a sucker for a twin stick shooter, and it does not disappoint with a whole slew of upgrades, weapon choices and enemies. And yeah, again, there's a whole lot of them. Unsure then if it's going to be for you, head to that PlayStation store, you can check it out, the prologue demo, absolutely free, which will give you a good taste of everything you can expect, and free demos, always a favourite of mine personally, and I'm a big advocate for demos, as many of you will know. It makes it a whole lot easier to decide if you want to part with that cash. With that then, hit subscribe, join our growing PlayStation family. A shout out then to Exor Studios for sponsoring today's video, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.